I'm not talking about hoping for your collected artists to be very famous in future so that you can sell their works for a profit. Not so much about that, because I bet when that happens, you won't want to sell. Because it's like a trophy to a collector that I have got good eyesight 20 years ago. I spotted Yayoi Kusama and so on and so forth. That's really something that you hold pride in.
I think the other three panelists have pretty much covered all the good advice that they could give. So I'm going to cut it short. Well, I think I like to share my own experience with a fellow artist as a or as a collector. I mean, I've always believed in as an artist yourself, you should also buy other artists' work. This is for you to understand the thought process from a client. So then you would, for example, you would think about the quality of your artwork or the material that you use or everything else. Yeah, I think that's very important. This is what I learned from my own experience. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Okay, well, now we open to the floor for any questions. I saw Fanchun already like shot up his hand. I'm gonna walk around and pass the mic.
Hello. So my first question was, does it matter to curators to agree with the intended meaning of the artwork? That is the first question. And then the second one is, do collectors yourself sometimes try to influence the artist's creative process?
So to your first question, do we have to agree on the intended meaning? No. Not at all. I think working with artists, to me, it's a lot about relationships, right? And it's not only with artists. I think it's with everyone else around us. No two people are going to have the exact intention, thought, feelings and things like that. But I think it's what do we gain in that exchange. So when I work with artists and we sort of talk about the works and we go all over the world at times, right? The only thing that stops us, that brings us back down is called deadlines, right? I'm like, okay, we have to do this show at a certain time, so let's just stop. To me, I personally don't think about influencing because where we stop off, what I say is possibly a comma at a sentence, and the sentence will continue, or we will move on to the next chapter or not, right? So I don't think we need to land on an intended meaning. You have possibly gained something, and I have gained something, so that's that. And the second question was, again, sorry? So for me, I don't, because I don't, as I, that's why I say I still don't see myself as a collector, right? In the sense that whatever a work that is developed is that, right? The only thing I would talk to an artist about, like I previously said, is this might be harder to sell. That's it. But I personally, as a collector, no, I don't influence at all.
I don't impose. You can't impose. If you can impose something on the artist, then the artist is not worth collecting. But I do have artists that come to me to share, to talk, to discuss, and perhaps through that, there is certain direction, there's things where I influence. But it's not intentional. And as to whether the meaning of the art, it depends on the artist. If I buy a Tang Hong Yin, I wouldn't have to ask him about it because he won't tell me anything. That's his style. My art should speak for itself. If I buy from B.B. Chun, I'd like to hear him talk about his art, why he did that. So it depends. That's a fun bit about collecting.
Any other questions? No?
afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for your talk. Okay, first I would like to say a statement. If we agree, then I can go to the question, which is, do you think art collectors do play a role in art movement and then to push the limits of the artist? So when you are seeking for more, artists will try to improve. So do we see it like that? I mean, do you agree?
I would.
I think if the artist is bothered with their opinion, so then they would choose whether they will be whether their artwork will be influenced by the collectors. Other than that, I don't see why.
I think it is a factor, right? It's not the only factor, but I think it does lend it plays a factor in the art ecosystem, yes.
Two stories. One is Mark Rothko. Mark Rothko painted his color field art, and he wanted to paint for the people. And one day he found that the people who can afford his art are the rich that he disliked. It influenced him a lot. It got him very depressed. He actually, end of the day, committed suicide out of depression. So it can affect people negatively. Van Gogh is famous for supposedly only selling one or two pieces of work in his life. So in that sense, no. So it depends. It very much depends on the artist. But artists who are too aware of what sort of art to produce so that people will buy would not be a good artist, would not be a great artist. But again, an artist would like, same for a collector, what I say, you need to train your eyes, you need to widen your horizon. Artists need to do the same as well. They need to know what is out there before they can decide on their own direction, how they're going to do their art. Because no one is self-taught, right? No one is an island.
Okay. So then here I can elaborate on the point. Yeah, definitely personally, and like as you said, in a way they can influence because, especially as you mentioned for young artists, they will look maybe, especially when the process of selling art is not really healthy. Like what I mean is not really existed. Like now, you see in some places, selling art is a goal, but practically it's a part of the process of making art. It's a whole thing because it's a circle that as an artist, you make art, you sell it more. But I will go back, kind of all of you, despite when you mentioned about the gallery, so there was some tangible way to measure the art, but you refer to I like the art, correct? Personally. So can I know a little bit more as a personal perspective? How do you like the art? Like, is it, for example, you mentioned that you bought something from WhatsApp, right? I mean, because you trust the gallery, but then the interaction with the art, how do you really measure it personally, despite that?
Well, I would love to share with you what my personal preferences are. But I think it's not actually very major in the answer that I'm going to give, because I would say that certain artists will be influenced, or certain collectors and certain galleries and curators will be also influenced by a particular circumstance that actually shape the artist's work. For example, people tend to see smaller works in Singapore because the collectors usually have smaller homes compared to the Indonesian collectors' homes. You know what I mean? So when it comes to this kind of concern, so it is quite natural for the gallery or the curators to adopt a particular format or a standard for the artist's work to fit within. But of course, there are a lot of exceptional cases, I would still say. So it boils down to the artist, what kind of the things that you want to portray, what are the messages and so on and so forth. But apart from that, if you say that the collector can influence the artist in doing one particular thing, I would say that is commission then. If you want to commission a piece of something, of course you can, but you need to ask yourself, what's the rationale behind it? Do you want a piece of things that comes out from the body of work from the artist studio, or you only like the artist's handiwork or a concept that you want him to paint your face? You know what I mean? So it depends on which dimension you are taking.
Thank you.
The international market demand of Malaysian art is none. So, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's true, isn't it? Okay, okay. To be fair, okay, don't cry yet, artists. To be fair, there are some international collectors who buy Malaysian artworks as well. But as far as we know, none of them actually collect Malaysian art in a very big way or systematic way. Say, if someone were to curate a Malaysian art show out of some China collectors' entire collection, I think it's quite unlikely that's going to happen at this moment. So, boils down to the local community. We have to support our Malaysian artists. And then I also think that all the audience have to consciously understand that someone has got to pay for the bill. Someone has got to help the artist to foot their studio rental bill and their utility and so on and so forth. Therefore, none of us is entitled to an FOC enjoyment at any particular function or event without supporting them really, I mean, in a very realistic way. You can visit your artists, buy them a meal or sort of, but it would be great if you can buy their work. You know, so these are the things that we are trying to emphasize, and also trying to educate and cultivate collecting among the younger collectors that we come across in KL. That's what we are going to do. International, come back to your questions. I don't want to disappoint you. There are international collectors, but I would say quite regionally. So it is quite natural that people are drawn to things that they can relate to. So Southeast Asian easier markets, like low-hanging fruits that we can pick. These are the Singaporean and Indonesian and Thai collectors that we can speak to because they understand our context. They can relate to the work that our artists are making over here. But I would also alert the artists that you also need to ask yourself whether you need that national identity in your work or you do not need that, because there's no right or wrong. It just depends on you whether you like to put a piece of I don't know, an image of Nasi Lemak in your painting or not. That's entirely up to you, but you need to ask yourself, is it necessary? So I wouldn't quite talk about Malaysian art in the context of Malaysian art, but we always talk to our Singaporean and Indonesian and Thai counterparts that we need to call ourselves Southeast Asian, because every single country of Southeast Asia is too tiny when we go to international. So we need to call ourselves Southeast Asian, and perhaps that's going to help our audience to understand us better.
Any other comments from the other panelists?
Three of you have different markets. You have different targets. So maybe you will have different experience sharing. Because like Howard, maybe you will have because you are at the just now you mentioned you are at the Georgetown Heritage site. So I will expect you might have more visitors from tourists.
So for the benefit of the people sitting behind, basically Nicole is asking, saying that the three panels in front have different markets. So in particular, Howard, what are some of the criteria?
I guess for I take photographs and I sell my photographs as prints, but that's a different category of my work. That I kind of market it as souvenirs and also slash artwork. So I mean, people buying it for different intention. I guess because after they experience Georgetown, they want to bring back a piece of memory. So, but I don't think they are serious collectors that buy collecting my kind of print. I mean, they collect them for different purpose. Yeah.
So I think the Malaysia versus international debate has been quite a while now, right? I think that the few things, going international would take a lot of decisions from the artist as well. You go international, your price gets charged in USD, right? So then how do you start balancing a USD price versus a Malaysian price? Because if something is USD 1,000, it's going to be 4,000 here, right? So having said that, I think more and more now there are opportunities and steps for Malaysian artists to go international, whether it's via galleries who then work with museums. But it is going to be a process, a long process, and it has to be thought out with the galleries to figure out that long-term plan. I know one collective, a group of artists, they're called Punk Rock Sulap, right? They basically are now going into Brisbane International, they've gone to India. And again, because they hold very true to who they are, which are basically East Malaysian artists talking about about their concerns, right? That's where they started off from. How long they will hold on to that, I'm not sure, right? But they had to work with a gallery to get into a museum, to get known internationally. So I think the pathways are starting to happen, but it will take planning, it will take thinking through an artist or a collective or a gallery sort of vision and trajectory to get there. It's not going to be overnight, that's for sure.
Right. Any other questions?
So Sophia, you mentioned that in the international market, they are collecting Southeast Asian or Malaysian art, but not systematically. Could you explain more about what systematically actually means in a bigger scale?
As in they follow our artistry, they follow, if there is any of the artistry that we are talking about here, and as in they are following a particular artist or a particular group of artists or a particular group of particular movement of our artists here in Malaysia, to look into their body of work, study them, do research, collect them in a big way, or that they consciously hold activities or programs to promote on our behalf. And I think that's quite lacking here, which is not for us to ask for, because we are the frontier people who should be doing that ourselves, basically. Yeah, because if we do not pay attention to our own art here at home, no one else will do the same thing. I do agree with Charmaine that people are paying attention to us, but still, yeah, long way to go. Long way to go. And they hardly know much of Malaysian artists' name. I don't think they are able to name more than 10 Malaysian artists at once. But that's okay, because we are starting to see the light already. When people know about us, at least they know we are not like living up on the trees. And then they know that we do have artists who are full-time, who devote their life and time